When for the discussion post, when answering kind of what characteristics or what I want my supervisor to be or how to kind of treat me, the first thing is I'd really want to make sure when selecting a supervisor is just knowing that they've been properly trained. The code of ethics mentions that there are specific methods and techniques that are taught. Um, but I'd also want to make sure that I've been given, or I've given my consent to be supervised by that individual and to understand truly what's expected. For instance, what are the logistics of my supervision with them, and will they be physically observing me or listening, watching the videos or audio from sessions that I have with clients. I think what is expected has to be clearly addressed for me, because in turn, my client needs to be informed and give their own informed consent themselves to be counseled by a supervisor, or sorry, a counselor in training who is being supervised, as their information will be disclosed. And I just think this is an important factor because I want my client to be able to still trust me. And I know that they might be sensitive to knowing that their information is being shared with another, even if it is a qualified supervisor. So I'd hope that my supervisor would be able to help me navigate that kind of challenging dynamic, an element of client confidentiality and building of trust. So I guess I just like a big characteristic would just be knowing that they're very responsible, and knowing that this is kind of a lot of the importance that supervision holds. Um, so yeah, and I think with responsibility just comes a lot of organization. Um, but the second kind of category is that I would always want a supervisor who is respectful and, honest with me, who will give me constructive criticism, as this is a time for me to really learn and lean in on their senior expertise in the field. I have to be able to trust them and to help teach me, and just be fair towards me in how they communicate with me and point out my areas of improvement. The authors, Remley and Hurley, mentioned that supervisors must provide ongoing feedback, evaluations, and opportunities to correct areas that need significant improvement. For instance, they mentioned that a very specific description should be given that allows the supervisee to understand areas that they fall short. So just communicating with me in an effective way. And I feel like every supervisor probably does that a little bit differently, playing back into how organized they are, how responsible they are. But I'd also want to make sure that my supervisor's expertise matches the area or the population that I'm currently counseling, so that I can receive adequate and helpful feedback. Having a supervisor be honest with me too about areas that they find outside of their scope would also be helpful. Just to know really what they can teach me and maybe what they can't. And as the authors, Remley and Hurley mentioned, again, one of the most important things is that the supervisor abides by ethical and professional guidelines. If a counselor doesn't abide by the code of ethics, then they are really jeopardizing client care. And this just does not set a good precedent for me, who is trying to learn and gain from their knowledge in the field and helping me understand and get a really good experience through them. But some other things that I've considered that are really important is if or maybe not really important, but just interested, I would be interested to know if they're involved in any counseling organizations, or if they continue to attend training to expand their counseling skills and techniques. I think that's definitely very important and essential. The code of ethics mentions that, there is the specific training for supervision, but I would also want to know that they are involved in other counseling training and clinical consultation. And just making sure that they stay on top of those things to make sure that they are always, being able to apply what they learn from those things into their practice. So just having conversations maybe about what they learn in clinical consultation or things like that. But I think what is so amazing about this field is that we should constantly feel like we are learning new things and evolving our own areas of scope and expertise, so that we can, I mean, we're just constantly working our brain, which I think is amazing. And that allows us to continue to assess and process new things and in new ways and develop our skills, which will make us effective counselors in the field. But and like the final thing that I kind of thought about was that I want to make sure that my counselor is setting aside time each week for self-care. Just getting a gauge on how they kind of allocate time for self-care, what self-care means to them, will really set a good tone for, I think, for me and how I kind of develop my own schedule in the field. So those are, I think self-care is probably one of the most important things that I'd want to see them talk to me about, or just see them doing. Because I know you get to know your supervisor pretty well, I would say. But then, and then with the question of what would you do if you believed your clinical supervisor was not competent to provide you with quality supervision services. I know the book mentions that if I'm still in internship, I could talk to my school supervisor on how to proceed if I believe that they're being incompetent. But it does seem like the first best thing to do is to talk to your supervisor to discuss any concerns, just like you'd want your client to do if they were feeling like something was inadequate or truly upsetting in how they were being counseled by you, because it is a two-way street in that regard. So I'd want a client to feel comfortable talking to me, just like I'd want to feel comfortable talking to my supervisor. But I do think there are plenty of supervisors out there. So if one is not meeting expectations, I would hope that I could go with another one. I especially believe this if I'm paying for a supervisor. I know that there are some people who don't pay for one and those who do. If I'm paying, I mean, time and money is already such a precious thing. So I wouldn't want to waste money if I didn't think my supervisor was doing an adequate job in helping me train for the field. But it does seem like you have to get like a permit, and so I think you have to do like an amended permit once the initial permit has already been issued in order to change supervisors, but wasn't quite sure on that. So if anyone has any feedback. I know this video is getting long, so I'll just wrap it up by saying that supervision does really interest me. I've always kind of wanted to be a teacher, and this could be a great way to kind of like train the next group of people that are joining the counseling field. So having supervisees would kind of feel like a nice maybe blend to, or very complementary to having a private practice someday. I don't think it's something that I would do right away. Need to gain experience, be able to have a supervisee trust me as their supervisor. So these things will all come in time, but honestly, I think I would love it. But who's to say? I have a lot of time to think about this, but yeah, I think that it could be really great. So thanks for listening, and I hope everyone is having a great day today, and thanks for any feedback that I receive. Take care.